Hello and good evening or good morning, whichever side of the world you are. Tonight, we're going to do a long overdue question and answer. But first, got a couple things that I want to get out there. Last week, our vitamin blender was short staffed, closed a good portion of the week for the Thanksgiving break. Orders, a lot of orders went out the door today, and there's a lot more sitting on the dock to go out tomorrow as well. I dropped some of your orders off to UPS about 2 hours ago, so that stuff will go out. Lots of stuff going out today and tomorrow. So stay tuned to your tracking information that you got. Those updates will start popping up, and you will receive your orders soon. Even the orders that are in Guam and Hawaii, all of those have been shipped priority mail to get to you fast as possible. Right now, those times are tracking at about 7 days, give or take. We do anticipate closer to Christmas that getting to be closer to 10 to 12 days, maybe 14. You never know this time of year, but the people are working really hard to get the stuff out as quick as possible. So I appreciate the patience that y'all have. How are you doing tonight, Joe?
I'm good. I was one of those people that was out last week, like you were talking about, but I'm not on the manufacturing side. But right. I was gone all of last week. I had to go work in Minnesota. So, you got to do what you got to do. But,
you got to do what you got to do.
Holy shit. People get grumpy if you don't answer them in 5 minutes. It's like, come on, people. This is a pastime. This isn't how I make my living. So,
right.
It's all right. It's all right. But, so people like Amazon and Walmart and Chewy and Temu and all those other places, right? They wind everybody up to go shopping on Black Friday. Well, tell you what, the rest of the world sits around being fat and happy after eating too much turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, pecan pie, So,
hey, if we didn't let the ladies go shopping on Black Friday and the men relax on Black Friday and have a long weekend, you might not get your stuff until Christmas. Happy workers or good workers?
I have to admit, this is the first time I've gone shopping on Black Friday. But Bass Pro Shop had a sale on a handgun, and I just had to have it. It was a hot deal, so I went and bought it.
I like the doorbusters. 6 years ago, I found myself waiting in line for about 5 hours, something like that, for a doorbuster. It was a Canon wide body, and it was at Academy, and it was $600 off. Now, I ain't getting out of bed for $50, but $600 off of an $1,800 safe was not a bad deal.
Right.
So,
I'm still not waiting for 5 hours in a line to do that. I just don't give a shit. But
I sat in my truck. I sat in my truck with the heat on, because it was brutal.
Yeah. All right, let's get to chickens.
All right, get to chickens. So I've got a lot of questions that were submitted through private message because, a lot of people don't, if they're afraid of asking a dumb question, which to me, a lot of people say there is no dumb question. To a point, that's true because you got to learn somehow. But, hey, send us private messages and we will do what we can. First one I have: what nutritional benefits does grass offer?
And this is a tough question because nobody has ever measured or put a value on it, right? So as a nutritional person, I'm going to tell you that grass is the following. It's really high in vitamins A and E. Okay. It's got a unique type of fiber that is extremely beneficial to a chicken's digestive tract if the grass isn't too big, right? Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see, right, spring of the year, people put them out on new grass that's 12 inches tall, and they're not used to having grass most of the winter, depending on where you live, and they get crop bound, and then the crop goes sour, right? And then you get what they call pendulous crop. So, but look, people, grass is benefit. What? What are you laughing about? So
I was laughing. I was laughing at Dwayne. He said, "I don't know if my questions are dumb or not." But I will say this, Dwayne, if something's on his mind, he's gonna grin, he's gonna start nodding, and he's gonna ask.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
And,
don't be afraid to ask.
whether in my mind, even in my mind, if I think it's a dumb question, I'm not going to say that, and I'm still going to answer it. So,
right.
If Dwayne had the question, there's probably 10 more people had the same one. Short of which end does the chicken, or which end of the chicken does the egg come out of? Now that's a dumb question. If you have to ask me that, we're in the wrong place. But
we need to go back to
that,
handling birds.
So grass is good, right? And honestly, people need to, what the chicken's looking for are the insects, the worms, if there's a chance of a small reptile. Like in my backyard, we used to have a snapping turtle come across the road, hatch, lay her eggs, do her thing, right? And then a little while later in the summer, the baby turtles hatched, and they came the wrong way. And they came through my yard, and my hands were running around with a baby turtle in their beak. So look, they're not, they're going to take advantage of whatever free lunch they can find. And it worked for me.
And I mean, hey, I like a free lunch too.
Yeah. All right. So did you see Dwayne's comment? And this is, you can do this, right? So
yep.
I've known several people, if you get what they call pendulous crop or sour crop, if you calm down, take a deep breath, you can actually shave off the feathers, get the feathers out of the way, get a scalpel, not your damn rusty old pocket knife. You can actually make a nice clean incision, empty it out, you can flush it out, you can rinse it out, and you can suture it back up. And if you do it right, following that surgery, you can save a bird, right? You don't have to lose a bird that has an impacted crop. Okay.
So over Thanksgiving, I took a turkey out of the yard and put it on the table. And my wife was cutting it up, and she cut it accidentally. Okay, I accidentally forgot to take the crop out. Now I did withhold feed. I withheld feed for like 2 days.
That's a little long, but okay.
Yeah, but I was afraid of something like this, or having crap all in it. And well, it was more like a day and a half. But she said, "What is this?" And I looked at it and I said, "Oats. That looks like wheat." And and by the time I get to grit, the look on her face, she was not entertained. So picked it up real quick and discarded it, and all was good. But yeah, got a real good look at the inside of a turkey's crop. It was kind of entertaining to me, but not
so much to Tamara.
No, not to her. Another question.
We got some good questions already rolling in. So
yeah, let's see.
You may want to take them off the messages.
Right here, Jubilee, this one was actually on my list because he posted it in the group earlier too. Is it possible for nutrition to exceed the genetic potential and that they get bigger than what they would on the nutritional? They met their genetic potential. So I think he's wanting to know if the nutrition can outrun the genetic potential.
Right. And it can't. Okay. So so if you overfed a bird, and this happens a lot because I see some dumbasses buying like turkey starter or game bird starter at 28 and 30% to start the chicks on. So the only damage you're going to do is to like the kidneys. You're actually going to set them back. While they look like they're doing a great job and growing exceptionally well, you're going to give them late term issues, down the road. And but good, proper, balanced nutrition, better than what you can buy off the shelf is for sure. It's going to help them express their true genetic potential. But honestly, some guys don't want to see the hidden genes in their birds, right?
Yeah.
I work with a lot of guys and they're cruising along feeding, the 16% lay pellet down from Tractor Supply or whatever, Rural King or whatever's down the road. And they're used to what they're used to, right? They're used to seeing, the same thing, right? So that becomes their normal. And then all of a sudden, you give them something like Rapido or, a better feed mix or, whatever. And all of a sudden, well, you and I before the show, we were talking about a guy has a 6-month-old bird weighing 5.5 pounds, and he doesn't know whether to be happy or scared, right? Because the bird basically has hit its mature weight at 6 months old.
6 months.
Well, yeah, but that's what the bird's genetics were capable of doing when you unlocked it and allowed it, to display itself. So you're not going to outrun the genetics. You can burn them up by overfeeding protein when at the wrong time. Like a game fowl chicks should never be on a 26, 28, or 30% protein feed. Never, right? I mean, you're just way over. I mean, a good 22, 23, a good one, not store-bought shit, right? Is going to show you everything you want to see. So,
I mean, that's how Dwayne got up 380 pounds.
Holy shit. I can't even envision Dwayne at 380 pounds.
Well, he's not there anymore.
All right. So, no, you're not going to outrun. You're not going to, your nutrition's not going to outrun your or exceed your genetics, right?
You're going to see
what the real potential is there. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see it. You can't exceed it. No. Let's see here.
You had that one up. We need to probably talk about that one.
Yep. I have a brood cock about 7 years old that was in pretty bad shape. He's been on your custom mix for about a year, doing a lot better and in good flesh and feathers. But his head will not get a good red color to it. Do you have any recommendations?
I really want to know, how much fat covering those pelvic bones. I wonder if he's still carrying a little bit too much internal fat. I don't know if we dropped enough weight on him. I don't know if we dropped enough internal fat on him when he was, going through the molt. But the other thing is, back when he was in pretty bad shape, and if he was struggling enough, you have to admit that you have to realize there's a good chance that his heart had some stress or damage to it previously in his life, and heart damage doesn't really recover. So whenever I see, a dark-headed rooster, where it's going to purple or even black, doesn't get that brighter red, that usually leads me to believe that there's some sort of heart issue going on there with the bird. Now, if it was my bird, just to see if what I just said was bullshit or not, is I would run probably 2 ounces per gallon of a good apple cider vinegar in his drinking water for a week and tell me if something changed. Okay. So the vinegar, for whatever reason, seems to help heart efficiency as well as oxygen carrying capacity. So that would be a pretty good indicator that that he does have some sort of heart-related issue. So if that holds out, then I would want to put that bird where he's going to get the freshest air, not in the middle of the yard, right? I'd put him on an edge where the prevailing wind comes from. I want to get him the freshest air with the most amount of oxygen in it, so I can get him to breed, get some offspring out of him. I would just breed the shit out of him. I'd put him on as many good hens or pullets as you got, just to get, something like him going down the road. Because if I'm right, and it is a heart related thing, we're on borrowed time. So one stress event, somebody's dog gets loose, runs in the yard, whatever, coyote gets in, hawk comes down and scares the shit out. Whatever happens, one severe stress related event and we can lose him. So I want to get him the best air possible. I want to get him some vinegar in his water, and I want to keep him as low stress as I can keep him until we can get some offspring, get some breeding out of him. But the vinegar in the water is going to tell us if you see a change in that comb in the head. That's going to pretty well confirm that I think his heart is weakening. And just a matter of time.
Time to get him a girlfriend.
Your best girlfriend. If he's that good a cock, then you want to put the best girlfriend in there. So
that's right. All right. This person says they're actually looking for medicine for roosters and want to know what is best for a sick bird.
Depends on
that
which
depends
sickness.
on that's a loaded question. Yeah. Give us some more information about your sick birds later in the comments, and we'll help you out the best we can.
And I don't know drugs, so I'm not the right person for that. Never used them. Don't know anything about them. So
we'll give you an answer that'll do it naturally. Jubilee says the only concern is if they get too big to match for a show. That is where feed management comes into play. A lot of times we talk about better feed.
Yeah.
You feed them 40% less.
Cut them back. You can only cut them back so far, right? Otherwise, you're starving them, and they're not going to perform.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. My birds, I would say that my birds would flip on the yard any day, and I feed them 2.5 ounces a day of dusty shit. So
yeah, but they're not losing weight, right? And what
no, they're 5.5 pounds at 6 months.
Yeah.
So yeah,
right. But it's hard to match one when you start getting like 512 or above. When you start getting above 512 into the 6 pound or even 6.5, it's hard to match them on weight because nobody else is raising their roosters right to get them to their genetic potential. So I don't know how to fix that problem, but that's what the breed is capable of.
Right. Dwayne did point out that some families of hatch birds, their heads will never be red. I've seen some close, but there again, the genetic potential of the bird.
Huh. I didn't know that. All the ones that I've seen so far, get that nice cherry red look. Okay. That bright cherry red looking. So
TJ Bryant says it's supposed to get down to 15 degrees tonight in my area. Adding some extra whole corn into the feed should take them through the night, correct?
It is correct, but TJ doesn't take a lot, right? So look, your normal feeding is that 3 to 4 ounces. It only takes about 10 to 15 whole kernels of corn to give them all that extra energy that they're going to need, right? Don't get crazy. About a half ounce is plenty. That's a lot of calories, man. So it will. I'm more of a fan of cracked corn because it breaks down easier, right? But as long as you're feeding them grit and the gizzard's got plenty of grit in it, it should do the job. But yeah, I'm more of a cracked corn kind of guy.
Yeah. They don't, their bodies don't really use a whole lot except for the carb load, but they can process the cracked corn better. Gina says, is it best to throw a handful of grit once a week or however often they need it in the pen, or mix it daily with their feed?
Daily. I like it daily. It's 1%. So for every 50 pounds, you're only adding a half a pound, right? It's not a big deal. You can add a pound. I can't get game fowlers to leave it in the bottom of the feed cup. So if there's always 1 or 2 pieces in the bottom of the feed cup, then I'm happy. But, I can't get them to think that way. So just add it to the feed. So you can go 1 pound per 50 and be happy.
Personally,
and 1 pound is not a lot.
No, that ain't a lot.
Good.
What I do is I've started drilling small holes in my feed cups because when it rains, there's water in them and you have to clean it out before you put your food in and all that crap. So I drill some holes in there, and the way my dusty feed don't go and clog up the holes is because I keep grit in there. I buy grit by the 50-pound bag, and I'll toss it in my feed mix, and I also toss it in their run area. So I do both.
Yeah, they should be eating about 1.5 to 2 ounces per mature bird per month. Okay, so if the grit's too small, they'll eat more than that, and if the grit's too big, they won't eat that much. But your target is 1.5 to 2 ounces per bird, which is about 2 tablespoons. In the course of the month.
Right.
Justin did respond about. Go ahead.
Yeah, he said thanks.
No. He said it's more of a pink color.
Oh,
dark,
yeah.
So it's not brightening up, and I think we're coming back around. Pink doesn't scare me as much as the real dark, like beet red, black, purple.
Yeah.
I think just give him a little bit more time. But I'd still try the vinegar, and I'd still put him on the edge of the yard where he's going to get better air quality, just to see if he's gonna. So what did you have from Kiku?
All right, so this I think tags into the other question that we got about medicine. He wants you to talk about the benefits of oregano oil as a treatment for a lot of ailments.
So most of the research and data on using oregano oil comes from the commercial side. And what we do know is that adding, just a very small amount of oregano oil to either the feed or the water is an excellent control for coccidiosis, necrotic enteritis, which is bacteria digestive upset. Those are the big two. But if you can keep the gut healthy, also by adding it to the feed, the smell of the oregano is like a appetite stimulant. But, if you can keep the gut healthy, it doesn't matter what animal we're talking about, whether it's you, me, a chicken, a cow, a dog, whatever, right? An animal's health comes from their gut. Okay. So if their gut ain't healthy, they're open to disease, right? You can pretty much, but you need to keep it healthy. And the oregano oil is really neat in that it targets the pathogenic or the bad bacteria in the gut, and it doesn't have the negative effect on the beneficial bacteria in the gut, right? So it's very selective, and it does a great job. And there's lots of companies out there doing it, right? There's Ralco doing it. There's Van Beek doing it. There's BioReg offering products. Now you can get oregano products from multiple different sources. But I will tell you the three that I just mentioned, right? Now, Ralco is my favorite because I believe they have the cleanest product. Also, they've blended the oregano with cinnamon oil and a small amount of tea tree oil, so they get a broader band effect. So I do like the Ralco products. BioReg is good, but it's still staying pretty much to a straight oregano. And then the Van Beek line would probably come in third, in my opinion. And look, I've been working with the oregano essential oil products for keeping animals healthy pretty close to 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been a long time. And when used correctly, whether it's in the feed or the water, it can be a huge tool in your toolbox for keeping your birds healthy. So
I like oregano oil, and I like garlic. Those are probably my two favorite.
Yeah. So I use the oregano oil not so much for treatment, but I use that for the maintenance. Okay. Mm-hmm. I use the garlic tincture, or the CEG tincture we talked about, which is cayenne, echinacea, and garlic. Those three work really good together. I use those for an antibiotic replacement. So I use those, I'll treat it in the water when a bird's, got the sniffles or sneezing or coughing or whatever, right? Any type of infection. I like to use that more in my antibiotic replacement therapy. I use the oregano as a maintenance pretty much all the time, a little bit in the feed or a little bit in the water, just to keep the gut balanced and healthy. Good stuff.
Now, with both of those, would somewhere around half an ounce to a gallon of water be good?
For the CEG, and so the CEG is about a half ounce per gallon. Straight up homemade garlic tincture, I usually tell everybody 1 ounce per gallon, or you start there. You can slowly reduce it over the week, but the first 2 days is going to be 1 ounce per gallon. Then you can drop to like a half ounce per gallon for 3 days, then a 1/4 ounce per gallon for another 3 days. And you should be past whatever's got your bird sick. Should be. Now,
also,
if you let the infection go too long, sometimes you got to treat for 14 to 21 days. But if you catch it early, right? You catch it early on those first symptoms, usually a week's worth, and we can get past it.
Earlier we talked about apple cider vinegar. While we're talking about amounts, how much of that, what would you recommend for apple cider vinegar? How many ounces per gallon of water on that?
So normal maintenance, like throughout the year, is 1 ounce per gallon. Okay. And like when you hit like really hot, sustained over 90s in the middle of the summer, I'd be running at 2 ounces per gallon. And if I think I'm treating some sort of a digestive disorder, like I get some really strange looking manure, bird shit, then I might run the 2 ounces per gallon just to, help get things back in line.
Got it.
Never going over 2 ounces per gallon.
Dougie says, I got a rooster that will eat all you feed him, but not put a breast on. He's been like that his entire life, and he's been on Rapido his whole life. None of his other birds are like that.
Dougie, that's a hidden genetic trait, buddy. I hate to tell you, but somewhere back in his lineage, could have been his grandfather, his great-grandfather, his great-grandmother, I don't know. But what you've seen is what you're seeing is what the fancy word is latent genetics, right? So this is just a hidden gene that's, and it don't matter what I do. We're not going to put breast on him. You know, his brothers probably can all have full breast and feel great and the whole bit, but it's just him, and it just ain't gonna change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about the blue face. Yeah, no, thanks, Dwayne. I forgot all about blue face. I shouldn't forget about the blue face.
So Eddie says, what's your first sign when you're burning them up on hot feed? I personally think that if you wait for a physical sign, you waited too long.
Okay, you're only going to see one thing, right? And this is the God's honest truth. Write this shit down. I don't want to ever have to say it again. You overfeed them. If you think you're burning them up, and it's going to be because of protein or calcium, because you're feeding them layer feed when they shouldn't be getting it. Okay, they're going to drink extra water. So write this shit down. Okay, weigh your feed. A bird will always consume twice as much water as it does feed by weight. Okay, so if it eats 4 ounces of feed, it will consume 8 ounces of water. This is like the holy grail written rule. You know, we know this for a fact. Okay, so if you're feeding 4 ounces of feed and the protein's way too high because you want to have the best feathers ever, right? And that bird's drinking 10 ounces of water or 12 ounces of water in a day, you're burning up his kidneys. The only thing you're going to burn up is kidneys. You ain't going to burn up anything else. You're not going to burn up his heart. You're not going to burn up his lungs. You're not going to burn up his gizzard, his crop, his intestinal tract. The only thing you're going to totally screw up is the kidneys from overfeeding protein, right? I was on, you know, we were talking about some of those other, you know, game fowl groups that you belong to on Facebook. And I was on a couple of those for a while, and I had to get the hell off of there because I was either going to commit suicide or shoot somebody because, I mean, some of the shit those boys can come up with just drive me crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Let's see. I think this is kind of the same question. Greetings from Central Mexico. Is there such thing as giving them too much protein? I give them a lot of mealworms. Mealworms are high in protein.
No, they're not. Look them up.
Well,
look them up. They're only about 22% protein, but they're really high in fat.
Yeah, they're fat.
They're not. Okay, a wet mealworm that's still alive only is about 21, 22 protein until you dehydrate them. Okay, they're not. Okay, so they're not that hot. They're not that high. It's not an issue. You know, and again, if you're giving them too much protein, they're going to be drinking extra water. They're going to be drinking more water than, you know, what we would consider normal. Now, look, if it's 100 degrees, they're going to drink an extra ounce or two of water. I get it, right? But on a normal day, right, they should consume twice as much water as they do feed by weight, not volume, by weight. Okay, so that's just the way it goes. Right? And that was one of the first things my mentor taught me back in 1996, and it hasn't changed till today. So it's pretty much holds true.
Kelly says, how much grit per pound to feed?
Oh my God. He's going to make me work hard. So if it's 1%, that would be 1/6 of an ounce, 0.01. That would be 0.01 pounds. So that would be roughly 1/6 of an ounce.
$5.5 grams.
Yep.
Give or take.
Yeah,
per
somewhere
pound.
around
Per
five,
pound.
5.5 grams. Yeah,
It'd be a
it
lot
really isn't a
easier
lot.
to open a 50-pound bag of feed and weigh out a pound of grit, dump it in there, and mix it up.
Well, okay, it's not in Kelly's case. Okay, so that's I understand why he's asking. I do custom feed formulas for him, and we're working all of his formulas based on 1 pound of feed, so that's okay.
I got you.
And we're going down the wrong rabbit trail. That's all right.
Let's see. Is there any benefit to using popcorn versus feed corn?
Nope. Same energy levels. Actually, popcorn has less energy than feed corn or whole shelled corn. The only nice thing about popcorn is it's a little bit smaller and it's easier for the bird to eat. But
yeah,
pretty much running at the same protein levels, really close in the same energy levels. Good feed corn is 1,500 calories per pound, and popcorn's about 1450. It's a little bit less.
Yeah.
An insignificant difference.
Now, Justin has the best idea. He's got 2 feed cups, one with free choice grit, and the other one is probably feed.
Yep.
How's the
Why can't I
easiest
get
way?
everybody to do that?
How's the easiest way to replace minerals in the soil? Do a soil test.
Actually, well, you can do that, but chicken manure is really good in most minerals. So, I mean, without seeing a soil test to know where to start from, because I don't want to put the wrong thing down there. And everybody's soil is a little bit different. So I don't want to guess at, what's going on at Dwayne's place. But I do want to see a good coating of high calcium lime, not magnesium lime, high calcium lime, right? Some people call it feed lime. Some people call it feed cal. Some people call it, but like 36 or better percent calcium. And I'd really like to see the yard, under the area under the chicken pens done 3 or 4 times a year, and make it white like a heavy frost. Work it in a little bit. That's your best friend, at least until until you get some sort of a soil test. And I'm happy I can read soil test, and I can give you a recommendation. If you want to spend the money and share it with me, I'd be happy to give you better recommendations.
And I mean, soil tests, they're not that expensive. They're like, what, $20-$30 plus some shipping? If that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not bad.
I think our soil test is like $20 or $25, and it's a pretty comprehensive soil test. It's not a cheap, state extension type test. So,
yeah, I took one of the ones that they do, and to the local ag extension, and the guy said, "Man, I've never seen one with this much data. This is a lot." So
they're going to give you the basics, right? They're going to give you the real basics because they think you're going to use commercial fertilizer, and they just want to sell you N, P, and K, right?
Yeah.
And whatever generic kind of lime. So they just do a basic pH test. They don't care about how much calcium's there, how much magnesium's there. They don't care about any of that shit, right? So Memphis Club brings up a really good point, and I didn't mention this, guys, but as you approach showtime, because grit will stay in their gizzard easily for 2 weeks, you need to ease back on it because it's going to change your weight and on the bird, and he's going to be a little heavy in the middle section. So you may want to, if you're prepping one, you got something in the keep, even before the keep, probably, I would say at least 2, maybe 3 weeks out, you probably want to cut back on your grit. It could slow him down a little bit. So thank you, sir.
How much of that oregano oil would you use with 3 ounces of feed?
Holy shit, man! This is hard math tonight. I need my calculator. Look, you're only putting oregano powder in 2,000 pounds of feed at a half a pound. Okay, so you're not 0.5 divided by 2,000 times 3. You can't even measure it that small. That is like 1/100th of an ounce in 3 pounds of feed. 1/100th of an ounce.
So I would say in redneck and knees that would be like a pinch, a small pinch.
Yeah, it's not even like 4 grams.
Maybe a light dusting.
Oh, wait. Here, see. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't. Man,
I mean, that would probably be easier to calculate. Let's calculate it at like 12.5 pounds. You know, we do the half a 5 gallon bucket.
Yeah, but I mean, it's okay. It's 0.3 grams per 3 pounds.
Per three pounds.
Yeah.
So
it's 1/3 of a gram for 3 pounds. So you're looking at about 1 gram for every 10 pounds. Okay.
Yeah. So when you mix your feed up in a bucket before you actually take it out and feed it to your roosters, go with 1 gram per 10 pounds.
Right. Because even when I do the 12.5 pounds, Carrie, it's still.
It's not an even amount.
Yeah. I mean, man, it's like 1/20th of an ounce. It's such a small number. I mean, the stuff, if you get the good stuff, from either Rauco, Bioreg, the normal usage rate is 1 pound per ton of feed. 1 pound. That's how strong oregano oil can be, right? So you just you got to go easy with that stuff, man. So
yeah. Next question: do you feed in a cup every day?
That's the only way to feed.
I was gonna say
we're not ground feeders.
I mean, you might mix that up with
ground feeders.
With a bowl or a trough and a grow out or something like that. But yeah. I eat my cereal in a bowl, not the toilet. Let's see how much oregano oil. Here we go. Jeff, you say you want to maintain the body on a bird but reduce the feed portions. Will you increase the protein to maintain that body, or will it still burn up the bird?
All right. So we can take protein up to 19 or 20%, and it's not going to burn up the bird, right? So like most good yard feeds, 16, 17% protein, you're feeding about that 4 ounces. If it's a really good feed, 3 ounces. Yeah. But, for people that are buying local, you tend to end up feeding close to 4 ounces, right? So if you cut back on the feed amount to 2.5-ish or 3, then you can go up to that protein. So humans, all of us here think about protein based on a percentage. You know what? And the chicken doesn't give a rat's ass about protein percentage, right? What a chicken cares about is how many grams of protein it's getting every day. It's actually more of a weight factor, not a percentage factor. That chicken can't read the label on the feed tag and say, oh, he's giving me 16% today. Well, does it really matter? The chicken doesn't give a shit. So,
right. Because
if you take a 1/4 pound of feed times 16%, right, it's 0.04 times, it's just over a half an ounce of protein, of actual protein. Okay.
Right.
All right. Follow me. 0.04 protein. And so, but if I'm feeding okay, so if I feed 3 ounces at 19%, I got 0.035, right? So I'm only off just a touch, right? So actually at 20% at 3 ounces would be, yeah. So 20% protein at 3 ounces gives you the same amount of protein, but I don't have all those extra carbs. I'm not making the bird fat. And more importantly, we beat this dead horse enough, but if we get the amino acids right, that protein percent on the tag doesn't really mean anything either. Okay. So, when we hit the amino acids right,
everything else will fall in.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause my buddy in Kentucky, I put together a 16% yard feed for him, but I cranked up the amino acids, and one day he calls me and he goes, man, I don't know what you put in this feed. I ain't sure what's going on here, but he goes, this 16% is feeding like an 18 or a 20%, right? And I had to cut back to 2.5 or 3 ounces because the birds were getting too big, right? Mm-hmm. And this is early on in my game fowl, working with game fowl guys. But it was really good feedback, right? And so we can do it with a 16% feed if the amino acid and all the numbers where they need to be. It's not a problem.
Dougie brings out a good point. When you've been feeding a lot too much protein too long, the feathers will also curl up.
Yeah, they'll kind of frizzle. They'll get a frizzled look and they'll fray out and curl. So if you're overfeeding protein, that for sure. I kind of see it a little bit more on more of the pumpkins or the blonder, the more blonder birds. They seem to hit it. And if they're in the sun, if they're in the direct sun a lot. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. Yeah. That curly, frizzled, dry looking feather is a sign of too much protein.
And, according to Facebook, no matter what the symptoms, I always give it cord.
Holy shit.
That's cord is good for wasting. That's good for wasting money and throw it in the garbage.
Don't get me started.
That's a funny one, though. But look, he's right. You go into some of these chicken groups and, it's like, oh, my bird looked at me funny and smiled today. What should I do? Give it cord. They don't want to look and see what the poop looks like to know if it's got coccidiosis or not. They just let's give it cord. How long would you recommend feeding the chicks a tablespoon, like you do the tablespoon per pound, and then transition over to the cup per 12.5 pounds? When would be the ideal time to make that cut over?
Okay. So, let's back up. So the rounded tablespoon per pound of feed is the same as a cup for 12.5 pounds of feed, right?
Yep.
Get yourself a cup out, get your tablespoon, measure how many tablespoons go in that cup, right? And it's going to be the same. So the amount of Rapido being fed, regardless of age, is the same amount in the feed, okay? And it just gradually increases. So it all works out to the same number. So by the time you're feeding 12.5 pounds of feed to the chicks or the grow outs, just use the cup. You don't have to keep doing the tablespoon. The tablespoon really is only for that first couple of weeks when they really don't eat a whole lot. And so you don't really need to, but by the time, if you start feeding 6 pounds a day, just mix up your 12.5 pounds with a cup of oil, cup of Rapido, and put it out there for them. It works good.
This is a very true statement. No matter what you feed a chicken, they're gluttonous eaters, just like we are, and they'll eat the biggest pieces first.
The nature of a chicken is they are a greedy eater. They always eat the biggest pieces first. Okay. That's just the nature of the beast.
That's why I like a coarse mash.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other topic. You ain't got enough time to open that can.
No, because we only got like 8 or 9 minutes. Is it necessary to cook soya beans and Milo to feed the chickens?
Okay, so the Milo test, this is easier. Well, okay, bottom line, any bean, not just soybeans, any bean has urease, which is a trypsin inhibitor. It interferes with the digestion of protein and many other things. So, yes, they need to be cooked. Beans should be cooked at 270 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes and then let them cool off. Milo, okay, so take a small amount of your Milo, put it in a cup of water, shake it up or stir it up. If the water turns red, then yes, you need to cook the Milo because it's high in tannins. If the red does not come off of the Milo and turn the water red, then you do not need to cook that Milo. That is not an old wives' tale. I didn't make that shit up. I don't want to hear any smart ass remarks later on. That's a real deal. So if the Milo is high in tannins, which are they interfere with digestion as well. If it's high in tannins, if you put some in a cup of water and shake it up or stir it up, some of the red will come off and the water will change color. Okay, so that's your test. Now, I had the Milo breeders like VP or something, across the U.S., right? The big Milo Breeders Club sitting at my desk, and he told me flat out that 90% of the Milo grown in the U.S. is the low tannin variety. So it's not an issue. And the other Milo that is the high tannin is going into specialty markets where they're actually extracting the tannins to make other products. Okay. So you should be good, but still, that's the way to check your Milo. You just put some in a cup of water, shake it up. If the water changes color and the red comes off, it's got high tannins.
All right. Best recipe feed mix for game fowl.
Well, I mean, Carrie's got it. There's 2 or 3 feed mills that I'm working with. Chino Gonzalez has it on the West Coast at California Custom Feeds, game fowl feeds. On the east side, Carrie has it. I can't go through the mix. I mean, if you truly want the best feed recipe, message me or email me tomorrow and I'll send you the recipe. But chances are you're not going to make it. But I'll be happy to share it with you.
As I say, not many people are willing to pay $30 for a bag of feed, or $35 in some cases. But
you feed 4 ounces of all flock. You feed 4 ounces of somebody else's, like All Flock or Showtime or whatever.
What you started to say is it.
Right. And then you're going to feed 2.5 or 3 ounces of this. So you have a 25% savings right off the bat. Okay. Mm-hmm. So
when you read the feed tag,
yeah.
When you read the feed tag, if it doesn't have words like byproducts and stuff like that, then you may be okay.
Yeah, if the manufacturer is actually proud enough to tell you that they used cracked corn, whole wheat, barley, oats, roasted soybeans, right? Yeah, I mean, if you don't see the word byproduct in there, you got a winner. Well, you're on your way. You're on your way. You're on your way. Yeah.
Let's see. What's the difference between Fertrell and Rapido? I know you created both, and I have used both.
So honestly, the Rapido, when Douglas and I sat down, we wanted to make a little bit different. So the vitamins are a little bit higher in the Rapido, and we did add vitamin K to the Rapido because vitamin K, for blood clotting purposes, a little bit thicker blood is important, to the game fowl community. So it is a little bit different. Like I said, the vitamins are a little higher, and it has vitamin K, whereas the Fertrell breeder supplement does not.
All right. This one, he asked earlier to talk about Rapido Red, and I asked what information. So for the directions for Rapido Red, you're going to use that during the last 3 days of your keep, and you're going to feed it. You're going to give it 1 capsule on your show day. So
Yeah.
the morning of, yeah, two a day. The other days, 1 the morning of, and it is a point enhancement product.
And and 10 or 15 drops or 20 drops of jitter juice would even help that go a little further.
Yep.
But you really need to know your birds, right? When you're holding them, the night before and the morning of, you need to know your birds well enough to know, all right, is he lacking energy? Is there actually any more in there to have? Or is this, is he already peaked? So if he's already peaked, you don't want to push him beyond, right? So there's no need to do the Rapido Red or the jitter juice. But if you pick him up and he don't seem like he's like real alert, really, top of his game, then I would give him that Rapido Red and some jitter juice.
All right. This next question says,
so what are you making the Rapido green?
Look, I'm going to tell you, and this is my standard answer for the Rapido green. We have been having such a problem reliably getting red pills that I don't want to put too much on the people to do the green too.
All right.
When the red stabilizes and is solid, and those orders can be filled exactly when they come in, then we will stick the load of the green on them. They are coming.
Okay.
I hope
I just saw Corey's question, and I was like,
I hope it's happening this month.
Okay.
That's the intention. What protein / fat percentage and ratio would you feed birds that you were breeding? I'd say somewhere around that 18%, give or take.
Yeah, 18 with some Rapido. I always want my fat at 5 or 6, and I always want my fiber at 5 or 6.
Yeah, those two need to be neck and neck.
Pretty close, right? They should be within a 1 percentage point of each other. But yeah, somewhere around 6% fat is a really good place, for breeding, because a lot of that fat actually goes into that egg yolk for the chick, and it's going to help a lot with that chick vigor, right? So,
yep. Kiku says, how would you mix 2 different feeds together, like one that's just pellets and the other one that's pellets and grains? And this will be our last question because we're right at that 1 hour.
I don't, without knowing the weight and the size of the two, I can't answer you, Kiku. I don't know. I don't know enough about either one. If you want to send me tags and what you're thinking about doing, I'm happy to look at it. I can't blindly make a recommendation. Tag. Yeah. But, if you're talking about literally mixing them together, the best thing you can do is go someplace and pick up a cheap cement mixer. Here we'd order one from Harbor Freight, or, go pick one up at Harbor Freight or Lowe's or Home Depot.
I was going to say, you get that 3 cubic foot one from Lowe's, and it'll hold 75 pounds of feed pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, you can almost figure on 1 cubic foot doing about 25 pounds. So if you got up to the 4 cubic foot, like Cobalt or something, or even others, you can do close to 100 pounds if you get the angle right on the cement mixer. It also
Yep.
depends on the density of the feed, right? So some feed, just is lighter, fluffier because it's got too much garbage in it, right? And you're not going to put 100 pounds of oats in anything and
No.
mix it just because of how bulky they are. But yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Good show.
We will see
Good
y'all
questions.
next week. Keep the questions coming. And we are going to say good night.
Good night.